Hi, I'm Captain Mike. Are you an inexperienced potter, or maybe even an experienced potter who's had just a little bit too much to drink, and what you were trying to do on your potter's wheel didn't end up looking like something like this, but instead ended up looking something like this? You know, after you scraped it off the wheel and throw it over there with the rest of them, and you done messed up for the day. And, you know, you end up with 6, 8, 10 of these things. They got hard spots in them, and some obviously got more water than others. It's a mess. You know, your options are limited to what you can do with it. Most people would just take it, let it dry out, wedge it back into shape, and that's absolutely great. I hate to wedge. So I have got a solution for you. Behold, the magic mini Pugmill. This revolutionary machine right here will turn all of your sloppy, messy, lumpy clay into a nice homogeneous mass of clay that you can again put on the wheel and perform miracles of pottery stuff. You guys do know what a Pugmill is, don't you? A Pugmill is a great big expensive machine costing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, not really that much, but they do cost a couple $1,000s. And they take all of your scrap clay and you put it in this machine, and it grinds it all up and turns it into great big long spaghetti pieces like this, okay? And then it's all homogeneous, and you can cut off what you want, you know, into 1, 1.5, 2 pound jump things. Wedge it a little bit if you want to, and throw it on the wheel. So, like I said, I don't have one of those. That clay was given to me by a friend of mine whose shop and name and their school is going to be in the comments below. Thanks, Rob and Jess. I appreciate it. Now, let me give you a little history about this wonderful machine right here. I'm Captain Mike, and I used to do some commercial fishing and take folks fishing and do a whole lot of fishing on my own. This was my magic mighty chum maker, and it made great chum. You could take your fish, stick them down in here, grind these things up, and all your spare mullet, bait fish, fish guts, heads, all come out in a nice gooey mess. You froze it in a gallon jug or something and throw it overboard, and instant chum. For those of you who know what chum is, those of you who don't, it just attracts fish to your boat. Well, those days are over. I don't do much of that anymore. So I clean this thing up right here. It comes apart, you know, just like this. It comes apart, and you clean it out and wash it and get all the nasty, stinky bits out of it. And there you go. You can use it for something else. Now, it was designed to be a meat grinder, or to grind up whatever you want to grind up. I happen to grind up fish. Then I started making soap, and I ended up with lots and lots of scrap soap. Scrap soap. Okay. So, what do you do with all this scrap soap? Maybe some that you don't like the color of, or maybe you don't like the fragrance of, or something. You end up with lots and lots of scrap soap. So, I grind it up, and it makes it all kind of one color. It smells all sort of the same, and it comes out in what I call soap noodles. See? Soap noodles. Really neat. Smells good, and then you can use it for all kinds of things. You can do some kind of French grind soap with it, which you heat all this stuff up and add some oil, heat all up, add some oil, and it ends up being soap. I don't like doing that. And then you can also add the soap noodles to a melt and pour base. That's a video for another time. So you have all that. So you're not doing that anymore. You're just sitting around wondering what you can do with your machine. I'll tell you what you can do with your machine. You can grind clay with it. Now, all of this is said in jest, just a little bit. I am somewhat serious about using this for what I'm going to show you. It's not fast. It's probably not economical. Well, it would be economical because these things are cheap at best and free, hopefully. Grandma's probably got one. And they last forever. And they don't wear out. If you don't have any, if your clay has no grog in it, which is usually sand, you'll never wear this thing out. And let me show you how I use it and why it might be useful to you. And then we'll move on to something else, and then you can just laugh yourself to death over this video and how dumb I am, okay? Now let me state again for all of those of you who just might be internet trolls, there are always some of those, and for people who don't believe this will work, it's not really a joke, but it was mostly done in fun. I had this idea one night, and I said, I'm going to make a video of this, and who knows, maybe somebody who's got one of these grinders would like to try this for making small batches. Now this is going to be intended to make 1 to 2 pound batches at a time. You have a whole bunch of this stuff, and you're going to take some of it and you're going to grind it up just a couple of pounds at a time. You don't have to do it all at one time, but you can do as much as you want. Now normally I use a great big huge piece of this. It's concrete board. You buy it at the big box stores. It comes in 4x8 sheets. You can get it smaller. It makes a great surface to wedge clay on and to also just to do work on. I have a huge sheet of it on my workbench. For this video we're going to use a little short one, and I'll probably fill it up here because I know I'll fill it up because I'm going to put a couple of these gunky pieces on it. Now like I said, you start with all this messed up clay. I mean this is not good for anything until you either wedge it repeatedly or, you know, process it in some way. So this is a little firmer. This one is yucky mucky yucky. So what I do is I put all these together. Sometimes there'll be a whole pile of them. I'll show you in a minute. And I put them all together and squish them all down. I squish them down to about 1 inch thick. There'll be a pile of stuff, you know, huge, because it's too wet to do anything with. See, it's too wet to do anything with. But you want it to dry some. Now here is the key. And I'll mention this. It's not scientific, it's experiment and experience. When you pug mill your clay, I've never really done it. Like I said, that piece of pugged clay was given to me by a friend and a teacher, and it takes a little experience in getting the right amount of moisture in it so your final product is suitable to throw on the wheel. And it's the same with this thing I'm going to show you here. It can't be too dry, it can't be too soupy. It really needs to be about the right consistency. So you're going to smush out all your clay in a great old big pie, and then when it gets time, you're going to scoop it off and flip it over. Let me show you what I mean. I got this little swell thing right here, sheetrock tool. Let's just say that you've let this sit for ever how long. You've got to stay with it, and you figure that it's drying out on the bottom side because this concrete board's soaking up moisture. And since this is so wet, it's not going to do well. But you get the idea, and that's what this is all about, is the idea. And then, of course, you flop it over, and as I said, it's too wet, and you can tell it on the bottom. But it has started to dry. And you'll do that until you get this stuff to the consistency that you think it needs to be. And when you get it done that way, then you're going to cut it up into pieces that you can put into your miniature Pugmill, and you're going to grind it up. Let's get to that. Okay, this will be kind of represents your patty that you have dried to about that consistency there, or wherever you think you need it to throw. Now you don't want this to be too wet because it'll be hard to run through this processor, but you can still you'll come through. But I would think that it being just a little wetter than you need it rather than drier would be easy, because as you wedge it on this concrete board, it will begin to dry out and get to that workable state that you need. So what I do is, and I say I do because this is just an idea, folks. I've experimented with it to see that it works. It does work. So this is what I would suggest you do. Your mileage may vary. Do what you need to do. But the idea is to come in here and cut this in to little pieces that you can put on or through the machine. You know, just do them like this, and you can see the kind of consistency. It may be, this may be drier than you want or wetter than you want, but you end up with all this here, okay? And so what we're going to do now is we're going to feed this through the machine, and I'm going to show you, or through the grinder. I keep calling it a machine, and I guess scientifically speaking it is a machine. It does perform work. But we're going to grind it, and I'm going to show you what we get, and I'm going to show you what you will need to do with your clay noodles. So here we go, folks. Clay noodles 101. Now, it looks like a lot of work. It very well may be. A side benefit to this is that you're going to get a workout with your arms when you do this, and then you can just change arms and get the other one, and you can write that down in your book as the exercise for today. So what I do is I take my strips of clay and I just feed them into the top of this thing, just like this. And you'll start it, and at first it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Safety note here, don't put your fingers in there too deep. It could be, well, it's not really going to hurt you unless you just keep on after the pain starts. But you'll mash it on down, and you'll feel it start to bite into the auger on the inside. And lo and behold, magic, it starts to come out. Once it starts to feed, it just feeds on its own. You just keep mashing it. You can make you a stick, you know, one of those little round things that'll fit down in this here, and you can mash it. That's what people do on the electric ones, and I've seen them do it on these too when they're making Brunswick stew or something like that, and they're grinding up all their squirrels and deer meat and hog and whatever else they're going to put in it. And so, you know, you just keep putting it in it, and it does require that you keep pushing down on it. I said earlier that this wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. It's just an option. It's something that you can do with what you might have available. You know me and my videos, that's the premise I work off of. What have I got that I can repurpose? So we're going to run a little bit of this through here, and you have to work at it. Mind your fingers, and just keep on pushing it through. And the drier this clay is, the better it works as far as coming through the grinder. But then you're going to have to add moisture to it. So I would try to stay, as I said earlier, with a consistency close to what you need to throw on your wheel, or maybe just a little bit wetter, so when you wedge it, which you're going to have to do, it will dry out to some degree. I'm not much of a potter. I love to throw on the wheel, but I'm by no means an expert. Claim to be, never will be. And I kind of come up with this idea because my daughter is learning how to do this, and I have clay that needs to be processed, and so I can process this right here into small amounts for her while she's throwing on the wheel. I can take some of the other stuff and I can reprocess for her, and it will speed her along on her journey. She won't have to stop and do this. Of course, at some point in time, Dad won't be around, so she'll have to do it. So hopefully she'll watch this video, and I've already discussed this with her, so she kind of knows. So there you go, folks. You just kind of watch the stuff come through the thing like that. It might take 5 minutes if you're not running your mouth like me to process a couple of pounds of clay. Most beginners start with about a pound, pound and a half clay when they're making the average pot. Something like that. That's what my daughter did this week. And so, yeah, that's about a pound or a little over of clay. And so it works out pretty good. Yeah, I'd advise you to get a stick or something, you know, or dowel or something about so big that you can poke with this. You know, poke it down inside the top up here, and I think it will help a little bit. And I come up with all these ideas as I work because this is all experimental. It's a new idea. I haven't done it. I haven't found a video with anybody that's done it. I did see several videos on people who said this wasn't actually, I should take that back. It wasn't videos that I saw. I read a couple of things on Google where people said this wouldn't work, that the plastic ones or the cheaper ones or the electric ones go out real quick. Well, if you don't have any grog in your clay, you're not going to wear this puppy out very quick. I would hate to know how many poor bait fish and unfortunate mullet that went through this. King mackerel guts and spines and bones, and then pounds and pounds of clay, excuse me, soap after that. And so I know it won't wear out. And that's what you have to do. You just have to keep on pushing it down, keeping your fingers out of it, and it'll just come right on out like that. We're almost through. We'll speed this up a little bit. Okay, that's it. That's the whole couple of pounds of clay that I run through this. It did not take long, and you've got this big mass of noodles. Now, once you get ready, I got to get all of it ground up. It's a simple matter to take this thing apart, put it in the sink, let it soak, clean the clay out, throw the water outside. It's got the clay in it. Don't dump it down your sink unless you're a plumber or know how to plumb. Your trap will fill up eventually. So it's easy to clean. And you put it up when you're through, mount it on a board like I did right here. And, you know, you could sit and make, I don't know, ever how much you want at one time. You plan to try to attempt 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pots. Sit down and make you 10 balls. And once you've run this stuff through, and then you put it in bags and save it. Now here's what I'm going to show you have to do. I said you have to wedge, and I don't like to wedge. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it on this little thing right here, and I'm going to wedge it up a little bit and talk about it, and then we'll be through with this video and I'll tell you why I think this is a good idea. Okay, if it's about the right consistency, it should come off of your plate without leaving a lot of debris. Yeah, a lot of debris. That always tells me it's about right. If the clay is still sticking to your surface and you have to scrape it off, it's usually just a little bit too wet. Now there again, that's me. I am not, if you want to see really good potters, you're going to have to go to a different video, and them guys and gals would just amaze you with their magic. I don't have any magic except for this thing right here. You know, it's magic. And then you wedge it, and the reason you have to wedge it is you've got a gazillion little noodles, and you got to get all of those out. And this might be just a little bit stiff, but hey, for this video, I'm pushing things. I've had to back up, shoot a couple of things over again. Yeah, it's just a tad wet, but it's not much. It's not bad. You can always spray a little water on it when you're through and put it in your plastic thing and save it, and then when you get ready again, you can wedge it in. And I'm not a good wedger. I don't do the ram's horn and all that good stuff. I just kind of skeesh it. You're trying to get the air bubbles out. What the grinder did was incorporated all the hard parts with the soft parts. That's what this is all about. Wedging it by hand, all that mixed up clay takes a long time, and there's a couple of different processes that I'm not going to get into about wiring it, cutting it, folding it, beating it. That's too much trouble for me. Maybe not for you, and by all means do it the way you want to do it, because you know, if you're not having fun with this, you don't need to be doing it. There's no money much to be made in it, I'll tell you that. So it's got to be fun. All the things I do have got to be fun, or you learn something. It's a new experience. So this is not wedged completely, but we're going to imagine it is. I am a big proponent of the beat the slop out of it wedging thing. So usually I spend a fair amount of time doing this, okay? The dogs and the cats don't seem to mind too bad when I do this, but you'll end up with, you know, a nice ball of clay. This weighs a little more than a pound, but then you can start to, you know, pinching it off, weigh it, put it into the whatever you want to do, and you can even take 5 or 6 or 7 of these, roll them all together, make it look like it coming out of a Pugmill, and go tell all your friends that you bought yourself a $3,000 Pugmill. Whatever you want to do. But that's it. That's what you do. And that clay won't have any hard parts in it. I mean, you won't have a lump the size of a quarter that wants to stick out that you found out after you got your bowl throwed down to, you know, a 1/4 of an inch or whatever, and you think it's really neat, and you're going to do a closed bowl or something, and all of a sudden there's this lump on the side you can't get rid of. If you hadn't got there yet and discovered that, you will. So that's what we're doing here. We're just trying to take a bunch of messed up clay, and I got a lot of it. You taking a bunch of old messed up clay just like that, that's, you know, gunky yunky, and you got to do something with. You've got to either pay somebody to put it through their Pugmill, you've got to sit for a long time and wedge it, and let it dry and wedge, or you can use this wonderful, you can use the magic mini Pugmill, or whatever you want to call it. So really, folks, that's it. I hope this wasn't too crazy for you. I hope that maybe somebody will find it useful. I don't expect a lot of you to, but there'll be a few of you out there that say, hey, that's a pretty good idea, I can do that. There'll be some that I don't have the time, and that is absolutely your choice, and you do what you need to do. I appreciate y'all watching this video. If you have comments, or if you have some suggestions to make this even more better, let me know. I'm willing to learn. You know, all comments are welcome. Just be adult. Don't insult me. I already know that I'm kind of crazy and offbeat a little bit, so you don't have to remind me of that. But be adult, I'll be adult. We'll all learn something. So that's it. That's my video on how to fix your clay where you can use it. I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.